Hello, I'd like to talk to you about public and private data and methods. What they mean, what's the right way to do things. Okay, so why is public data bad? And I'm talking about class instance data here. And why is private data good? Okay. Imagine a bank account class with public instead of private instance data as follows. Okay, so we've got a public class bank account. We've got an account name, account balance, interest rate. They're all public. And we've got a bunch of methods there: set, get, deposit, withdraw, apply interest, transfer, and so on. Okay, so we've got all of the methods there. Each of those methods might do validations. For example, you can't deposit a negative amount, you can't withdraw more than your balance, and so on. There'll be a lot of validation going on inside those methods. But our data is public. So the methods of the class would enforce validation rules for these class instance data and all of the operations on that data. For example, account names might have to be at least 3 characters long and must contain only alphabetic characters. That might be a rule. You cannot withdraw more money than is in your account, so you can't have a negative balance in your account. That could be a rule as well. You can only transfer or withdraw up to $500 a day from each bank account. That's a reasonable rule as well. Interest can only be applied on a certain day of the month, and the method must be run by an admin user from a validated internal bank computer. That could be a reasonable method as well. Okay, reasonable rule. In addition, if you have special methods, for example, that are only supposed to be run once at a certain time or day or by a certain user or from a certain location, then the method should verify that these details are 100% correct before proceeding. So, especially when you're talking about money, there's a lot of validation and a lot of security built up around it. Your methods have to do all these things to ensure that bad things aren't happening to the data. Okay, because bank account class data is public, every other class has full access to the data. It can change it, it can do whatever it wants with it. For example, in another class, we could declare an object of type bank account and set the balance to whatever we like, a nice big number. Okay, so we declared a bank account object and then we've set our balance to whatever. Okay, and then we could set the balance to a huge negative number if we wanted. Or we could increase it by whatever we liked. Here I'm adding $9,999 to it. We could add whatever we wanted. Or we could set the balance but only for some account holders. For example, if the account name is Mike, then I could add $9,999 to my balance, or anyone named Mike. Or we could set the account name to whatever we like. For example, account name equals 12345, or account name equals blank, or whatever we like as well. So we're changing class data and we're bypassing the validation rules. Or we could change the interest rate to pay a huge amount of interest every month. For example, interest rate equals 10,000%. Thank you very much. That would be a nice little bonus interest on our account. Things would add up very quickly. Or we could get up to all sorts of mischief. And this is a disastrous and very serious situation. All of our data security is gone. All of the data security that was enforced by our methods is gone because our data is public. Okay, so all of the validation rules enforced by the bank account class methods have been bypassed because the data is public, and all of those validation rules are now worthless because they've been bypassed. So an exercise to think about, how long would a bank be in business if they developed their classes with public data like this? Or Amazon, or eBay, or anybody that develops classes. How long would they be in business? It's not just banks, it's everybody. And the answer is not very long at all. How long until they were bankrupt or the lawsuits started flooding in? I'd have to say very quickly. And protected data is safer than public data, so we can have protected as instead of public, because only classes in the same package can access the data. However, protected data can still be easily changed or corrupted, and any or all of the validation rules can be bypassed. Okay, so even protected data is not good. Okay. So the recommendations: declare all of your class instance data as private unless there is very, very, very good reason for it to be public or protected. Keep all your data private and you can't easily go wrong. Provide accessor and mutator methods, so get and set, deposit, toString and so on, to provide access to the data And these methods are responsible for enforcing all of the validation or processing rules associated with the data. So it's a safe way to access data. Okay. You know the set method or the deposit method is going to enforce the rules, so that's a safe way to give access to your class data. You're doing it via the methods of the class. So follow those recommendations there for all of the work you do, because when you get out in industry, you're going to be doing it for real. Okay. So that's the security about class data. What about class methods? Imagine an apply interest method that should only be invoked once a month on a certain day by a special admin class method, by a special admin class user, but the method is public. Okay, it might be an admin class method as well, so it's only invocable from certain locations. If we could get access to that method and bypass its security, we could add 1,000 months worth of interest in the blink of an eye. Okay, so that's a very bad thing to do as well. We can do that with deposit and transfer and all sorts of things as well. So any public method, if we can get an angle on it and abuse it, there'll be people out there that will do that. So as you can see, method security can be just as important as data security. And if you don't have your methods with the validation rules coded right, people are going to find a way to bypass them. So the recommendations there: declare all of your user-defined methods, all of the methods you create, as private, unless there is a very good reason for them to be public or protected. So keep things as private as you can. If a method should not be available to another class, make sure it's declared private. If it doesn't make sense for a method to be available to another class, declare it as private. If a method should be available to subclasses, then declare it as protected. And if it should be available to any class that might use our class, then you've got to make it public. For example, constructors and toString and methods like that. Okay, so in conclusion, exercise caution with the access modifiers of your class data and your class methods. Keep everything private, or as private as possible, unless there is very good reason for it to be protected or public. Okay, so be very careful with your data and methods. Okay, and if you follow those two rules, you'll save yourself a lot of grief in the future. Okay, and it's a good idea to get in the habit of doing it for all your coursework as well, so that it just becomes second nature to you and you apply to everything. Okay, so I hope that was useful. Thanks for watching.